welcome to RPM with Nyameka. Here is another wonderful episode, and I'm here with this wonderful lady. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Takiyah Ndwanya, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, from your accent, I can definitely tell that you're not from the shores of South Africa. Could you please tell us where you're from?
Oh yeah, so born and raised in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Lived various places after college. Came to South Africa, Cape Town in 2010. And fell in love with Table Mountain, fell in love with somebody, and then moved here permanently in 2011.
Wow.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while, and you fell in love with Cape Town, so that's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place. So that was it for me. I wanted to travel Africa. Mm-hmm. I thought Egypt would be the first African country, but no, it's South Africa. And I came to do a fellowship for my PhD at the time.
Mm-hmm. And which institution?
TAC, Treatment Action Campaign. Pretty well-known nonprofit here in South Africa. I think it's expanded to other countries now. But they're very big in advocacy for HIV treatment, prevention, and education. Wow. Yeah, so I came here to do that fellowship, and it was, the first time being part of advocacy groups and campaigns and going out into the street and protesting and just making sure our voices are heard. So that was a good experience, and I think I just fell in love with something different than what I was used to. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow, great. That sounds like a wonderful story. We'll talk about this later on. So I just want to find out, Takiya, what's on your playlist?
A lot of different things. So I'm from D.C. We call it Chocolate City. Mm-hmm. And
Atlanta? I thought Atlanta was Chocolate City.
No. D.C. is Chocolate City.
Oh, okay. Oh, my bad.
Atlanta is Chocolate Now. So Atlanta, actually my brother lives there with his family.
All right.
I would say Atlanta is my number 3 home city after D.C., Cape Town, and then Atlanta. I've spent many a time in Atlanta. We call that more Hotlanta.
Yeah.
So, no, D.C. is gentrified now, but it was called Chocolate City. A lot of culture, music. So my music from D.C. is go-go. I don't know. Go-go. I don't know if you've ever heard of go-go.
No.
Have you heard of go-go? Are you part of Yes. So that is a local homegrown sound, and it's basically live with Congo drums and someone speaking on the mic, a singer. So I grew up on go-go, so I'm always listening to some go-go.
Like, who is a go-go artist that
Backyard band? No, you wouldn't know. Have you heard of the wobble? The dance, the wobble? Okay.
I probably will if I see it. Then
Doing the butt. That's an old one.
If I see it, maybe I'll know. I never know the names. I'm trying to think
of a movie. Like, maybe Tyler Perry's had some go-go in his movies or something like that. But I think the most well-known one is Doing the Butt, and that's just old school, before twerking and all that other crazy stuff. That one became more mainstream, but a lot of go-go is still more local. Most of the people that have heard about it in the States actually, have friends who know about go-go, or they've been to D.C., or they went to a historically black college or university, which is the HBCU, which is where I went to school, undergrad. That's how you hear about it. So that's number 1. Go-go's number 1. I like I'm a Piano.
Really?
I like I'm a Piano. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, the old R&B, hip hop. I love Nas, Jay-Z, Kanye. I'm still following him. But as a music fan, loved his original things. I like that he's trying to incorporate the gospel into his music, although, it's still a little nebulous. It's either you're still trying to go both ways, and I think eventually you have to make a decision on what you want to do. But otherwise, I'm a fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard this in passing when people say this about Kanye West. I really never knew like the in-depth of it. To be honest, I think he's an icon in terms of culture, but I've really never followed his music and his life like that. Thank you for explaining it to me like that. I'd never heard it in such a way.
Yeah, we root for him. You know, we will always root for our people. And, you know, I'm very proudly Black. Black American, Black South African. I consider myself a South African American.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will never shy away from my feelings on our culture and who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Wow. Speaking of culture, so do you think there's a way in which politics and the gospel can actually meet? Should they meet, or do you think there's a way, and how should they?
Politics.
Yeah.
You know, there was an experience I had, and I'll kind of get to your question. I don't think it's kind of hard to say yes or no to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that when my husband passed away in 2016, I went back to the States, and it was a difficult transition for me, not just being a new widow and losing my husband, but also going back to the American culture after being in South Africa so long, becoming a Makoti and like all of that.
Yeah.
So I went back to where my mom was. She was staying with my twin sister in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I started to go to their church, right? And it's Light of the World Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. And although it was culturally different, because I'm used to going to Longa Baptist Church, it was a township church here in Cape Town. So it was an adjustment, but I was impressed with his knowledge of the Bible, impressed with his knowledge, academic. He was an academic, love that. But he was also a politician, right? And
this is in Lango in Indiana.
No, this is in the States.
Indiana, okay.
Indiana, yes. So just comparing what I was used to going to a township church in Cape Town to now Indianapolis, huge like Black mega church. The pastor, I mean, he was part of a Greek organization, which I'm not sure if your viewers know about, but we have like sororities and fraternities in the States.
I know about them. I'm not sure if they do.
Okay.
I've a little bit. I wouldn't say in depth. I know a little bit about them.
Well, he was a Renaissance man. So he was in the Greek life as a Omega Psi Phi, an academic. He had his PhD, I believe, and knew the gospel. Okay, so he had a lot of facets to how he spread the word.
Yeah.
The thing about it is he was also a deputy mayor at the time. And when I was going there, it was an election year. Mm-hmm. So I had a difficult time. I'll get to answer your question, but I had a difficult time. I know there's usually a separation of church and state, right? In this particular environment, it was all of it. Mm-hmm. You know, so although, you know, he's in the pulpit and he's spreading the gospel, he's also spreading political, you know, platforms and election rhetoric at the same time. Yeah. So for me, it confused me. So do I think politics have a place in the gospel? I'm not sure. I'm not sophisticated in the Bible enough to really answer that. I know how uncomfortable I felt when the two were mixed. Mm-hmm. I know I did look up some information in the, online and, you know, talking about how ultimately what we're dealing with now is like a culture war when we talk about politics and we talk about the gospel. Yeah. And ultimately, I think the bottom line is that the Bible is the rule of the land. Right? Yeah. That's what we should follow, and not someone's platform politically or what side we're on. Yeah. So in the States, there's a war between the left and the right. Yeah, right? Yeah. And it's always been there historically. I think it was elevated through this past administration, where people are, even people in the church, Christians, you know, taking sides.
Which is what I was actually going to ask you. Had it been maybe 10, 12 years ago and him using that platform, would you be still okay? I mean, I think the world watched the previous administration in shock and awe. Yeah. That's the words I can say without saying much. But maybe do you think because of what happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe could have been what made you uncomfortable? Maybe if it had happened 10 years ago, it wouldn't have made a problem. I mean, like it wouldn't have been a problem. Do you think maybe that could have been?
It could have been, absolutely. It was during that administration, and everything was touchy. And, you know, him speaking, he is a leader in the community as well as the church, right? So it's nice to hear his feelings on, you know, trying to understand why the world is this way, right? So I don't think I would have been as uncomfortable, but I'm also older, right? And I'm also more into understanding more, right? So I think at that time it hit me, yes, because we were, hit in the face with these politics and this administration and everything changing and not understanding why these things were changing and why things were allowed to be that we know are wrong. And then on the other side in South Africa, there's a lot of political issues within the church as well. So being on both sides, to me, I have a hard time, and what makes me uncomfortable is when I don't hear at the end of the day, the word is what we're supposed to follow and not the person, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, people are comfortable with the person because that's who they see. That's
Which
who they
it
have.
shouldn't be. It should never be.
It shouldn't be.
It should never be.
No.
So the person must never take center stage.
But a lot of them are. And, are you a gospel, leader and leading his flock, or are you a politician looking for assistance with your mega church?
Wow.
Which one is it? Because sometimes it's difficult.
Whoa, wow. You hit a nerve there, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to look for my questions now. Sorry. I actually forgot to ask, what do you do?
Oh, I guess that's first. Many different things. So, professionally, I'm an epidemiologist, so I've been busy during this pandemic. Also external lecturer at Stellenbosch University, working at the Africa Center for HIV Management. I co-teach a class, a Harvard University, on global health. I'm a president, director, and co-founder of a nonprofit organization based in the States and here in South Africa.
Wow.
Which you know about. We have another handover on Thursday in Nyameka. We're based, most of our community service is based in the Nyameka Township, which we've been doing since 2012. So I have that. Then actively involved in the treasurer of our sorority, which is international, but we do have a chapter here in South Africa, in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Pretoria.
Wow. What sorority is that?
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Wow.
It's the first black female sorority ever. We were established in 1908.
Wow. You have a lot of caps.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. And how does everything fit in with you and just being there with the jobs?
I think I know I'm blessed because, as I said, when I lost my husband in 2016, I lost everything. I basically, including my son, who is South Africa. He's my stepson, but I've been raising him since he was 2 years old. And maybe I should talk about this, about falling down and getting back up.
Yeah.
Losing a part of yourself in the manner in which I did, it was a tragedy. And then trying to figure out life, or not doing life for almost a year. Yeah. And then not being able to pray, God, why would you take this away? To ultimately saying, my life is in your hands.
Yeah.
So I can't do this anymore. So use me, the gifts you've given me, the talents you give me to glorify you and others. And that's how I was able to get back up. So over 2.5 years of being in the States during that time, I did caretaking for people who passed away, grandmother, aunt, big sister, her brother, so many after my husband passed away, so many.
That's loss. That's
a lot of loss.
A lot of loss.
A lot of loss. But gaining strength at the same time. And then ultimately, I felt the Spirit led me to come back here in January 2019, which I did. And, life started coming back. My friends and my in-laws who are South African, my son, rebuilding relationships, finding myself again in Cape Town, because all I knew with Cape Town was him. He was a Cape Townian. So trying to figure that out. And so going back to the jobs, I made commitment to God, stating that if you use me to glorify you, I'll have all the energy to do these things. So basically, I'm on a 24-hour clock. Meetings in the States, meetings in South Africa. I also am a professional mentor. So I currently have 6 interns working with me all over. I have one in Hawaii. I just spoke. Her meeting was this morning. One in Australia. How many in the States? 2 in California, 1 in Boston, and 1 in New York right now. So this summer U.S. side, I've had 12 interns. So that in addition to everything.
What?
Yeah.
My goodness.
So I'm saying I give glory to God because I went from not being able to even pray, do anything, to being able to give of myself where it's needed.
Wow. I'm in awe.
No.
All right, let's. I'm in awe. It's true. I'm in awe. But I want to ask this question as a follow-up question. You said that you're doing some advocacy work, and you say that you're busy now with the pandemic because you're
epidemiologist.
Yeah, that word. Just explain to us a little bit more on those.
So working on a project now with my interns are helping me with raw data, looking at the new cases. Actually, we have a database that we've created with number of cases over the year. So we're looking at 2021 from January to August. We want to figure out the impact of the pandemic or COVID on what we consider key populations or vulnerable populations, right?
All right, thanks. So with your many caps that you are wearing, how do you, and here you've got an option of 2 countries at your disposal, United States and South Africa. So how do you make sure that you use your passions in collaboration with rebuilding or building in South Africa and the United States?
Through my nonprofit. So my nonprofit is in the name of my late father and my late husband. So we added my late husband's name in 2017. It's registered in the United States. It's also registered in South Africa. So in doing my part, my passion is philanthropy. So I call myself an epidemiologist and philanthropist. So because I have a heart of service, in the United States, we focus on Indianapolis, where my sister is. We sponsor a school there. It's called Urban Act Academy, and they have about 70 to 80% of students on free or reduced lunch. Basically, your underrepresented community. Okay, this particular school wears uniforms. A lot of schools in the United States do not wear uniforms. Okay, so yearly we donate uniforms and shoes to that school, as well as give them a monetary donation before the end of the year. All right. Yeah. So that's us trying to help rebuild Indianapolis, which is a city that is in need as well. In talking about South Africa and rebuilding South Africa, Nyameka is the community that my late husband was from. So since 2012, we have sponsored one primary school in Mkenesele Primary School. We added John Palmer in primary school in 2014, I believe. So once or twice a year, we donate shoes, uniforms. During COVID, we added food parcels. So last year, in the early months of the pandemic, we realized kids were not going to school. So many of them, that's where they get food. So we were giving out soup to kids until the government cut that off, understandably. So we donated packaged parcels, food parcels that could last at least a month to 6 weeks in the community, as well as students at Mkenesele Primary School and John Palmer Primary School. And then we added sponsoring an orphanage as well in August of last year. So it's been a year. The Ema Sitandani Children's Center, which is where they came with me, and we were involved in a taxi war situation. But thankfully God provided us and protected us, and we were still able to do a handover there. So as far as rebuilding South Africa, I think in talking about politics and talking about the gospel and Christianity, it's a disappointment that politicians in South Africa have not done more to bridge the gap of the income inequity that's found in our township communities.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Absolutely. Especially in Cape Town, as you land in Cape Town, you land on my township. In Nyanga, that's, the first community as you land. And you drive on the N1 10 minutes later and you're in a, upper middle class community. The disparity is real. So what we're trying to do, and me personally, is to help build the Nyanga community through supporting education.
Yeah. That is so great. I'm grateful for that. But one of the things that I do see though within our people, there are people over the years who have empowered themselves, maybe left, especially here in Cape Town.
Yes.
Gauteng is a different story, but I'm going to talk about Cape Town. So these people have left and they've empowered themselves, and they come back and they want to rebuild what is going on in their communities. A few of them have been killed. So I'm shocked, and I see that crab mentality when somebody
pull
tries
each
to
other down as you go up.
I mean, these people are literally very much interested in rebuilding and building their communities, and they face backlash. I know a guy who was from Khayelitsha actually. He made it, and he loves Khayelitsha. He went to Khayelitsha to visit Khayelitsha, and he got killed. He got killed, and I think I know 2 more. So, with that being said, how are you how are you planning on curbing that? Were you aware of that, or how are you planning on curbing that? Because that's something that is very serious for me. I see it and
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay, that's very sad that somebody wants to help, but the help that they receive, they actually cut it off.
I don't think they cut it off. I think they delay it and try to dissuade other people from doing it. I will say I lived in Nyanga for 3.5 years with my husband.
Yeah.
I became a member of the community, even called a Malungu, but the protected Malungu, because I was also a Makoti.
Yeah.
So for me, and one of the things that I'm beginning to understand and beginning to accept is God's will, right?
Yeah.
So if it's God's will that my life is taken while doing service, that's something I have to be okay with, right? It's a hard thing to be understanding of, but I will know that I've done everything that I could when I was supposed to do it. It's a hard pill to swallow. Just 3 weeks ago, we were accosted, on the way to do community service, but that's the first time that's happened in 10 years. And I'm in the community all the time. My family lives in that community. My little girls who I've adopted are in that community. So it's unfortunate that the community, and even talking about looting a few weeks ago, people won't loot, people won't kill if they have opportunities. And if they know they have a lot to lose, right? So it's not even what we can do. It's what the community as a whole can do to fight against it, or the government to stop the corruption and allow people to be able to work and provide for their families. So it's systematic, it's deep rooted in racism and in
some
corruption.
Of it is spiritual. Some of it is, I'm like,
Absolutely.
It's very much spiritual.
Absolutely. But people have lost their way too, in talking about trying, one thing I love about Langa Baptist Church is that they are in the community. One of the things that will only drive me to staying at a certain church is if they're also working in the community, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday they were walking in Langa, early morning praying, distributing food and clothes, right? So I think one of the things we have to remember to do is that when we make it, we can't also go back and be flashy about it. The people that come on Sundays with their big cars, so, understanding that you may have left, you may have made it, but you have to rebuild those roots as well, because the gangsters have changed. They no longer know who you were as a little boy or who your family were. So it's unfortunate people are losing their lives. We have to pray about it, but we can't stop the work.
Yeah, that's true. The work has got to continue. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And you have also choices in this question. If you were in South Africa or in the States, if you were like a president for 1 week, you've mentioned quite a few things here in South Africa and in the States politically. If you were to be president in that position for 1 week, what would you do? What would you do differently?
Fire everybody and start from scratch.
In South Africa or in America?
Both. No one left behind from any previous administration. I would rebuild the entire administration, and each person that I hire, whoever I have the ability to hire, will have to have some type of community service or philanthropy in their life, period.
Yeah.
I don't care how smart you are. I don't care you got 20 degrees. I don't care, what kind of experience. If you don't have that extra component and love of people, you wouldn't be hired. So absolutely, I would start with HR.
They are public servants, aren't they? They're supposed to serve the
No,
public.
they're serving themselves.
They are, especially don't want to talk much about America, but in South Africa, that's exactly what they do. They're serving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very sad.
Yeah, so maybe they started out that way, but power in many realms, in the Christian community, in the political community, power is an issue that needs to be addressed, and realize the power should not be within us. It should be God's power through us.
Yeah.
Right? So until that happens, we're going to continue to see corruption and issues in both countries.
And power, for me, they always used to say power corrupts, but I actually realized power reveals
Corruption.
the corrupted heart.
Yes.
Anyway, so if you were corrupt before power, it's just going to be elevated.
Absolutely.
When there's power. So
That's true too.
So yeah, any words of wisdom you'd like to leave with our people?
Words of wisdom. I think be passionate about whatever you do in life. That'll give you the energy you need to be able to do everything that God has you to do.
Thank you so much, Takiya. Your passion definitely did come through today, so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This has been RPM with Nyameka.